It's 12 o'clock. Good afternoon and welcome to the midday news here on 3FM 92.7. This bulletin is coming to you live from our studios here at Adesawe Kanda and streaming live on Facebook. Coming up this afternoon, National Anti-Illegal Mining Operations Secretariat issues a stern warning that it won't respond decisively to any act of violence by illegal miners, vowing a fire-for-fire retaliation against those attacked its task force.
NIMOS will not stand by and watch people use weapons against us. We are better trained in the weapons, and therefore I'll send a warning out there once again that anybody who does, NIMOS will deal with them ruthlessly.
Also, railway workers picket at the Transport Ministry to demand payment for 14 months' salary arrears barely a week after massing up at the same venue. And much later, Ghana on the verge of making history today at the United Nations votes to adopt Ghana's motion, pushing the world body to declare the transatlantic slave trade as the gravest crime against humanity. I am Enyonam Haligah, bringing you the details now. Thank you for staying with us. Now to our first story. The director of the operations at the National Anti-Illegal Mining Operations Secretariat, Colonel Dominic Bois, has issued a stern warning to illegal miners attacking officers on the front line of the anti-Galamsey fight, stressing that the Secretariat will not hesitate to respond decisively to such threats. Colonel Bois made the remarks at a news conference briefing in Accra, where he outlined NIMO's ongoing efforts to restore sanity in the illegal mining sector.
Now, a lot of equipment have been destroyed. Let me reiterate that the metal components in the waterways, we have started collaboration with the Ghana Integrated Iron and Steel Development Corporation, GIZEC. They are currently on the Alcobra. I was there last week with them. And they are packing all the damaged chamfans, metal fabrications which are on the waterway, and will move diligently from one water body to the other and pack all the scrap. We can put them to good use. Pumping machines, through the Ministry of Agriculture, they will be repurposed. As we've seen, several of them have been donated to farmers. We want to ensure that they are not sent back to the Galamsey site, but they are repurposed for good use, as well as other equipment. Vehicles seized, we push them into the operations once they are formally seized by the Attorney General Department, so that we pull the resources together and get this canker eliminated. So there's one other aspect I'll talk about, that is weapons. There are several weapons in the space. As you can see, 59 weapons, there are more. And they are basically pump action guns in the hands of these Galamseyers. And that is a huge risk, a national security risk. Because when they have them in the field, any provocation, they will fire. We had a few brushes where one of my soldiers was shot. Luckily, it was in his thigh and he's recovering. But as I reiterated the last time, NIMOS will not stand by and watch people use weapons against us. We are better trained in the weapons, and therefore I'll send a warning out there once again that anybody who does, NIMOS will deal with them ruthlessly. It is a problem that we are trying to address, but we have the right to self-defense. And let no Galamseya miss that. If you go to the field with weapon and you try to fire it, a lot more will be at you. So I talked about arrest, majority of them Chinese. I must say that the Chinese ambassador is also alarmed at the rate at which the Chinese, they don't pass through his hands. And there is a network or a cabal that traffic these Chinese who come. Sometimes they don't even know Accra. They get visa to stay and straight they are sent to the bush. And that is our own citizens who collaborate with them. So we need to watch that space, because these are the people who are destroying our forests, our water bodies. Then I think at Osino also, one night, 32 Nigerians we gloss over the security risk, but that is a huge risk. In collaboration with the national security, we are trying to identify the status of these whenever we arrest them. There's a protocol for the foreigners. They are processed through NIMOS and then to immigration, where the enforcement unit handle them accordingly.
That was the Director of Operations at the National Anti-Illegal Mining Operations Secretariat, Colonel Dominic Bois. Now joining us on the phone lines, my colleague Stanley Niblo, who sat through the presser. Now Stanley, beyond the warning that the Secretariat has issued, what else has NIMOS been talking about?
Okay, so Enyonam, let me indicate that the NIMOS have actually proven to be on top of their operations. But the only situation here is the fact that you heard the Director of Operations, that is Colonel Dominic Bois, indicating that a number of people or illegal miners have been arrested, and a chunk or majority of the persons arrested in these Galamsey areas constitute foreign nationals. But the problem is that most people who were present at the press conference were actually mimicking over when that was mentioned, was the fact that the Director of Operation indicated that the Chinese nationals that were arrested for illegal mining offenses have been repatriated, and he also went ahead to indicate that they are under surveillance to ensure that these people do not return into the country to continue perpetrating crimes against the environment. But others were of the opinion that these foreign nationals, because most of our locals who were also equally apprehended for same offenses are languishing in various prisons, they feel that the Chinese nationals who were also arrested should have been prosecuted. When they finish serving their sentence, then the immigration service can now have the privilege or the opportunity to repatriate them into their individual countries. But in this case, that was not done. And so that has been one of the challenges that they are confronted with. But I must also indicate that actually the Director of Operations also indicated and was frantic about the attack of individuals or officers fronting the illegal mining space. I mean, trying to sanitize the space. And these people, these Galamseyers, are, carrying weapons at sight. And they try to discharge them at officers when they come to conduct or execute their mandated duties. But these 59 weapons that were confiscated from the illegal miners, they said...
Stanley, we have lost you there, but if you can position yourself properly, as may have lost you over there. But Stanley, if you can hear me, he also mentioned something about the excavators still being intact in their coffers. I believe
there are a number of excavators that have been confiscated by the team, and these excavators, you need low beds.
We may have lost Stanley Niblo there, but that's my colleague Stanley Niblo. He sat through the engagement where the Director of Operations at the National Anti-Illegal Mining Operations Secretariat, Colonel Bois, is issuing a stern warning to illegal miners who are attacking the officers on the front line of the Galamsey fight. Now, away from that, Ghana's £32 million debt to UK universities has effectively halted government-sponsored education in the United Kingdom. Thus, Deputy High Commissioner at the UK Aquinas Cancer says the arrest dating back to 2020 has created a financial strain. Since 2025, no new Ghanaian student has been sponsored to study in the UK because universities are unwilling to accept candidates from a government that already owes millions. In a meeting with Ghanaian journalists who are in the UK for an international workshop under the UK Ghana Science, Technology and Innovation Media Capacity Program, he said efforts are underway to resolve the situation. My colleague Christian Yale joins us from London for more updates on this. Christian, thank you for joining us this afternoon. I hope you're enjoying yourself and the weather is not terrible, but how serious is the situation? And have you been able to contact some of the students who were involved in such?
Hi, I hope you can hear me. And for the weather issues, I can tell you that it's not taking it easy on me, but the situation and the problem at hand is that since 2020, and so for about 5, getting to 6 years now, government has defaulted in payment of these stipends for the students to universities in the UK. As such, since last year, there's not been any attempt or successful attempt to, get more student scholarships to come to study in the UK. And I have already engaged some Ghanaian students at the Reed University, and they tell me that, they've not received any stipends, and their situation just keeps getting worse. But in the interaction and what the Deputy High Commissioner has told us and what we know, government has already passed a legislation, the Ghana Scholarship Authority Bill. Now, in that legislation, part of the reform says that government would stop sponsoring programs or courses that are offered by Ghanaian universities, but people want to come to the UK, the US, Canada, and the other countries to go to study the same courses. And so we can take a listen to the Deputy High Commissioner, Kwanzaa, who is of the view that government is already doing all that it can possibly to deal with the situation.
I think we do that continually. We do that. We even engage the schools themselves, not only the students. We engage the students, we engage the schools. And I believe we're trying to find we'll find a solution to that very soon. But it's not an easy task. All the schools want is for them to be paid.
Christian, that must be very difficult on the students, but has the commission engaged the student yet?
Per my interaction with some of the students, they tell me that they've not seen any of such engagement. Maybe it is yet to reach them, but the deputy commissioner tells me that they have engaged the student. As such, they are equally engaging the universities involved to ensure that those who are at the risk of losing their visas and are being, moved out of their residential rooms are given a lifeline or some time for them to work around the situation. And so we can listen yet again to him make that emphatic statement.
It's all about money. You get your money to pay the arrears that we owe the schools way back from 2020 to now. So if we are able to clear, I don't think any of them will find themselves in that kind of situation anymore. We are doing what we can as a commission to get money to clear those debts. Yeah. And I think you know about how much we owe the schools. It's like a whole ministry's budget. You're talking about £32 million. That is a lot. But we are trying just to make sure we clear those debts so that the children can go home. Because of that, I think since 2025, we've not been able to give any scholarship into this country because no school will accept you if you owe others. So we will do everything that we can to make sure this particular problem is resolved.
That was my colleague Christian Yale, who joined us from the United Kingdom, bringing us some updates on some £32 million debt owed to UK universities who have halted the government-sponsored education in the United Kingdom, where the Deputy High Commissioner says that these arrears date back to 2020. Now, away from that, railway workers are back at the Ministry of Transport to picket once again and demand immediate action for their unpaid salaries. It has been barely a week since they assured that the issues would be resolved, but they say they're still not heard anything. After 14 months without pay, many say life has become unbearable, with some struggling to meet their needs. They insist that proceeds of 20.6 million from the sale of obsolete railway materials are available to settle part of the arrears, yet no payment has been promised so far. They are waiting to meet the authorities on the development so far. Now, some workers have been speaking to our correspondent, Samuel Yeboah Adams. But before we bring them in, he's joining us on the phone for some updates on this developing story. Samuel, you have been with the railway workers since morning. What else have they been saying?
Okay. The mood here is quite a serious one at the Ministry of Transport, one of hopelessness and broken promise. Unlike last week, no official from the ministry has come out to address the group. And last week, Mr. William, director of the Ministry of Transport, assured them that by today, their issues would have been resolved. But till now, there has been no response or no sight of him. Now, what the workers are saying is that they want their salaries paid because they can't afford rent, they can't afford to pay the school fees of their children, and they can't also afford the general upkeep of their family. Now, things have become extremely difficult, and now they call on the government to quickly intercede on their behalf. Let's listen to some of them share their plight as they call for investors to support the sector.
We are working. Tema in Pakadan, the same railway workers are moving the trains. Accra to Tema. No, it's not our fault. The workers are ready to work. It's up to the government and the politicians to boost and resource the sector. The best we are proposing to the government. Well, when you look through their manifesto, when you look through their Sonia address and those things they are talking about investment. That's the perfect way. They should give it to investors. That's what I'm saying. That for over 16 years of the government, the two political parties, we've not been able to even get to Sucha. So what we are saying is that when they give it to investors and then they construct, there's attempts that they can do. They can do build, operate, and transfer. So many countries have done it. And you can imagine, how can Kenya even have vibrant railway than Ghana? It's not possible. But because of the evilness of our politicians, that's why we are suffering. So we are saying that if they will bring in investors, it will be the best. They should think of that.
And that was the General Secretary for the Railway Workers Union. Samuel, you've been with them. Has the Transport Ministry said anything yet?
So the General Secretary insists that they are working, as we heard him say. Now, they say that by 31st of this March, if the government doesn't intercede, if the government doesn't do anything, they will take matters into their own hands. As for now, they are all at the Ministry of Transport, waiting for the authorities to come and address them. That is the new development now.
Okay, thank you so much. And that was my colleague Samuel Yeboah Adams, who's currently at the Ministry of Transport, where some railway workers' union are picketing over their unpaid salaries. Now moving on, as Ghana battles a tomato shortage, local farmers are urging government to invest in improved climate-resilient needs to enable year-round production. They argue that with the right support, irrigation schemes like Tuba can reduce reliance on import and stabilize the supply. A report by Stanley Nee Blow.
Ghana is currently experiencing a shortage in the supply of tomatoes following the ban on exports by its northern neighbor, Burkina Faso. But as government moves to reopen talks with its Sahelian counterparts for possible sourcing, some local farmers say the solution lies at home. They are calling for more pragmatic interventions rather than relying on imports, which continue to exert pressure on the local currency. The Tuba irrigation farm, which sits on 520 acres in Accra, could play a vital role in addressing the tomato shortage if the government adequately supports farmers. With an improved mechanized system, water is drawn from the Weja Dam about 7.5 kilometers away into a reservoir in Tuba for onward distribution, enabling all year-round commercial farming. Despite this intervention, tomato cultivation is largely done during the rainy season, spanning June, July and August. This is because the seed varieties currently cultivated cannot withstand prevailing climatic conditions. Farmers say they are ready to expand production if government provides the needed support. Abdul Karim Tete is a former assemblyman for Tuba and one of the 344 irrigation farmers tilling the land.
If you go to the north, there are arable land, vast land there that the government can do this irrigation system there. We cannot depend on other countries like Burkina Faso and then our neighboring countries that we are importing tomatoes. So if our scientists can stand and do well and bring out those seeds, we have no problem.
A principal research scientist and tomato breeder at the CSIR Crops Research Institute, Dr. Michael Kwabnote says the challenges with local tomato production go beyond seeds. According to him, improved varieties of tomato seeds, including CSIR Kwabna, have been developed locally to match those from Burkina Faso, but more support is needed.
What I want to say is that we don't have one variety that can actually do well. And so in breeding, we have something we call genotype by environment interaction. Certain seed of variety that will do well in, say, Volta region may not do well in Ashanti or the Upper East. And so we say there's some interaction there, okay? So varieties perform differently at different environments. And so for us researchers, any variety we come out with, we evaluate them over seasons to be sure that this particular variety will do well at this particular place.
Dr. Michael Kwabnote is calling on the government to prioritize crop research.
For any forward-thinking country, they will not underplay the role of research. Research can turn this country into the positive direction.
And that was a report from my colleague Stanley Nee Blow. Now, still on agriculture, the Minister for Food and Agriculture is expected to address the public on development in the sector. It's anticipated that topical will be the government's response to the announcement of a ban by the Burkina Faso government on export of tomatoes to Ghana. My colleague Grace Hamwa Ajiman is at the Food and Agriculture Ministry. Let's speak to her. Grace, if you can hear us, talk to us. Has the briefing started yet?
I can hear you, but I didn't get the question. All of it. But
yes, Grace, I was finding out if the presser has started yet.
Right. Everything has not started yet. We have just been told by the Minister that he has wished to go to Parliament to also go and answer a question on the same tomato issue. The announcement of the ban by Burkina Faso that they will not export tomatoes to Ghana. So the briefing as we speak is yet to begin. The minister is likely to show up in Parliament any moment from now to provide all the answers to the questions everybody is asking about this tomato issue.
Okay, in the last few months, we've also seen a few gluts of maize, eggs, and all of that. Have you picked up any intel that he may speak on those issues too?
I can't hear you.
In the past few months, we've also heard of some gluts. We had the maize gluts, we had the egg gluts, where the buffer stock was directed to purchase some of these products. Have you also picked up if he's going to address on these issues too?
Yes, so we know that the minister will be will be talking on two issues today. The first one will be the government homegrown response, what the government intends to do to ensure that even when this ban is implemented, we have enough stock or we have enough supply of tomatoes for domestic consumption as well as industrial consumption. And this is going to happen with the revamping or giving support to the National Food Buffer Stock and all the other agencies that are responsible to ensure that there's enough food in the country. So I am sure that the minister's address will touch on what government intends to do, how it intends to revamp or support the National Food Buffer Stock to ensure that there's enough tomato supply for both domestic consumption, for industrial usage, and even for traders who also sell at the various markets.
Thank you so much, Grace. And that was my colleague, Grace Hamwa Ajiman, who is currently at the Ministry of Food and Agriculture, where the minister is set to address the press. Topical on it is the ban by the Burkina Faso government for the export of tomatoes to a few other countries, Ghana inclusive. This is still the midday news here on 3FM 92.7. Now, moving on to some other stories, Ghana's Vice President, Professor Nana J. Dokuo-Agyeman, has strongly condemned the examination malpractice, including result falsification and cheating networks. Speaking at the West African Examination Council, the Vice President urged stakeholders to protect the integrity of education standards and reaffirm Ghana's commitment to working with WAEC to strengthen the assessment system. A report by Armstrong Gold.
Addressing delegates at the ceremony, Vice President Professor Nana Jane Opoku-Agyeman called on the West African Examination Council to uphold its long-standing credibility and integrity, particularly in the face of growing concerns over examination malpractice. She stressed the need for a collective approach involving schools, communities, and other stakeholders to tackle the challenge, aligning with government's broader efforts to safeguard societal values.
The future academic growth, regional mobility, and economic integration of our sub-region largely depend on the quality of education provided today. Therefore, while the innovative mechanisms implemented to ensure fairness, transparency, and integrity in the exam process are commendable, the rise in examination malpractices threatens to undermine these objectives.
Reaffirming Ghana's position, the Vice President said the government would continue to work closely with WAEC to strengthen assessment systems, protect the integrity of examinations, and ensure educational outcomes meet global standards.
The growing incidence of falsified results and altered certificates undermines WAEC's mandate. Left unchecked, this risk will erode the credibility on which the entire examination system depends. This is not a challenge for the Council alone. It speaks to a broader responsibility that rests with institutions, communities, citizens, and especially the students themselves.
The Vice President later presented award to outstanding candidates from the 2025 West African Senior School Certificate Examination for school candidates. Notably, the top 3 awardees were Ghanaian female students, a development she described as a strong indication of the country's promising future. The overall best students and others also spoke against examination malpractice.
Well, it exists because people actually get questions and stuff, but it's not necessary. You can do it without it. I don't think they should even think about it. Just focus on your books and you'll be alright. I want to advise all students that they should ignore APO, they should ignore any form of examination misconduct and stick to their books because they can actually do it. It's really not that hard.
Last year was not about APO. When you get a flashback about last year, the people who wrote it, they noticed that APO is not the right thing, but learning and having understanding is the right thing to do.
And that was a report by Armstrong Gold Alogbe. Now, Ghana is on the verge of making history today at the United Nations as we vote to adopt Ghana's motion, which has been tabled by President John Dramani Mahama. Ghana will be back in the African Union, the Caribbean Community, and a host of more notable institutions to push for the United Nations to declare the transatlantic slave trade as the gravest crime against humanity. The country is, by the motion, seeking reparative justice, compensation, and a return of stolen artifacts. Now, President Mahama has been counting the support of the member state to fulfill the source. That brings us to the end of the midday news here on 3FM 92.7. I am Enyonam Haligah. Business News is right up.
FM 92.7. Urban Lifestyle Radio Station.
Welcome to Business Daily on 3FM 92.7. Coming up this afternoon, fresh details from the Bank of Ghana reveal MPC members not fully aligned despite rate card decision amid the concerns of a global risk. Also, Government of Ghana launches bidding for Damang Mine as Goldfields lease expires next month. And a March later, Finance Ministry warns state-owned enterprises to be efficient or stand dissolved.
Every inefficiency in an SOE is a tax on the Ghanaian people. Support from the state must be matched by responsibility to the state. Going forward, our message is simple: deliver or be dissolved.
Details of our headlines and other stories, please stay with us. Thank you for staying with us. Now to a first story. Fresh details from the Bank of Ghana's Monetary Policy Committee review internal division and growing caution over future rate cuts despite the reduction in the policy rate. This was contained in the decision submission by members during the 129th MPC meeting. Details in the following 3 Business report. New insights from the Bank of Ghana show that its latest decision to cut the policy rate was not unanimous, highlighting a cautious outlook for the months ahead. While the central bank reduced the rate to 14%, at least one member voted to keep it unchanged, citing rising global uncertainty, particularly escalating tensions in the Middle East and their impact on oil prices and inflation. The committee also reviewed that despite the rate cut, monetary policy remains significantly tight, with real interest rates still above 12%. This suggests the bank is taking a gradual approach to easing rather than a full shift to stimulus. Some members even argued for a smaller rate cut, warning that inflation risk could quickly return if global crude prices remain elevated or supply chains are further disrupted. The report further indicates that weak private sector credit growth remains a key concern, with the rate cut aimed at supporting lending and economic expansion. Looking ahead, the central bank signaled that further rate cuts are possible, but will depend heavily on global development and the path of inflation. The next policy decision is expected in May. That was a 3 Business News Desk report on fresh details from the Bank of Ghana, revealing MPC members not fully aligned despite rate cut decision amid growing concerns over global prices. Now, away from that, the Ministry of Lands and Natural Resources has announced a competitive bidding process to select a new operator for the Damang gold mine following the expiration of the Goldfields lease on April 18, 2026. In a statement released by the Lands Minister, Emmanuel Amakofibwa, designated the mine is a key national asset and outlined a strategy to ensure zero operational downtime during the transition. There's more in the following report.
According to the Ministry of Lands and Natural Resources, immediate steps have been taken to safeguard existing jobs and maintain current service contracts. A transparent process will be used to select a credible operator. The transition aims to increase Ghanaian-centered ownership and long-term investment in the mining sector. The ministry emphasized that the move is part of a broader effort to strengthen the industry while securing the mine's continued contribution to export earnings and the national economy. Meanwhile, Goldfields has confirmed that the transition of the Damang gold mine to Government of Ghana is nearing completion, with the official transfer of ownership scheduled for April 18, 2026. The handover follows a 12-month extension granted in April 2025 to ensure an orderly transition. Over the past year, Goldfields has worked to position the mine for long-term viability, successfully restarting mining activities in May 2025 and delivering a detailed feasibility study in December to guide future operations. Since 2000, Goldfields has invested $5 billion in its Ghana operations at Damang and Takwa and contributed $2.9 billion in taxes and royalties. The company currently employs over 7,000 people, 99% of whom are Ghanaians, and has invested over $100 million in community infrastructure and education.
That was a News Desk report on government launching bidding for the Damang mine as Goldfields lease expires next month. Now, away from that, Deputy Finance Minister Thomas Ampem Nyako has warned state-owned enterprises to be efficient or stand dissolved. He said government in 2025 alone had to recapitalize 3 banks amounting to over 2 billion cedis, and such losses would not be tolerated moving forward. The Deputy Finance Minister spoke during the 2026 State Interest and Governance Authority Annual Conference in Accra.
In the financial sector, government has had to recapitalize NIB, CBG, and ADB with over 2 billion Ghana cedis in 2025. We are also seeking to convert approximately 5.8 billion Ghana cedis of COCOBOL's legacy debt into equity. These are not just sector challenges, they are fiscal risks. They are growth constraints. This is the scale of the fiscal risks posed by the SOE sector. Every inefficiency in an SOE is a tax on the Ghanaian people. Support from the state must be matched by responsibility to the state. Going forward, our message is simple: deliver or be dissolved.
That was the Deputy Finance Minister Thomas Ampem Nyako there. Now, the Ghanaian cedi has weakened over the past 2 weeks as rising demand for foreign exchange and external market pressures weigh on the local currency. The Ghana cedi has recorded modest losses across both the interbank and retail foreign exchange market, reflecting growing demand for dollars by importers and shifting global conditions. There's more in this report.
The Ghana cedi faced broad depreciation across the interbank and retail markets this week, despite holding onto a year-to-date gain of nearly 5%. On the interbank market, the currency fell against the dollar by 1.55%, closing at mid-rate of 10 cedis 94 pesos. The cedi fell to the pound by 1.66%, closing at mid-rate of 14 cedis 62 pesos, and fell against the euro by 0.90%, closing at mid-rate of 12 cedis 61 pesos. In the past 2 weeks, the retail market mirrored this trend, with the dollar trading at 11 cedis 60 pesos and the pound at 15 cedis 40 pesos, though the euro remained relatively stable at 13 cedis 45 pesos. As the new week opened, the retail dollar rate edged further to approximately 11 cedis 70 pesos. Analysts from Data Bank Research attribute this pressure to a combination of rising global oil prices, which are bloating Ghana's import bill, and a surge in local forex demand. Additionally, a recent dip in gold price has become a key traditional support pillar for the cedi. Looking ahead, experts project a mild depreciation trend in the coming weeks, noting that currency stability will hinge on the consistency of foreign exchange inflows.
That was a 3 Business report on the cedi slipping as forex demand rises amid the external pressures. That'll be all for business news here on 3FM 92.7. For more news, please check our website at 3news.com. I am Enyonam Haligah. Enjoy the rest of your day.